let's talk trade rumors. All right. Thank you guys for. Hopefully, you guys are enjoying this. This is stuff that I've been wanting to talk about, and like, okay, I'm too busy writing, too busy getting frustrated with the rumor mills. Let's talk about 5 minutes and whatever it was, 55 minutes, 10 seconds into a video, and we'll put that in both of the pitching articles. We'll take the last part of this and we'll put it in into the Dylan Cease and Luis Robert article. But what else what else other questions do you guys have? Clint, what else is out there do you think we should talk about?
Um, I think there's one name that I saw that kind of came up to me, and I think it's an interesting one. Is Michael Lorenzen,
Okay.
pitcher out of Detroit. He's been having a pretty good run. He's 31. I don't really think that there's a lot of risk with that. We talked about Eduardo Rodriguez, but I think dollar value, that one didn't really make as much sense or make us feel as good about things as we thought. But I think Michael Lorenzen might be a potential one that could it could be something that could work for the Astros.
So
You know,
yeah, so because I know it was asked about it before the video, and I don't know if he's still here, but let's talk about Eduardo Rodriguez, and we'll go to Michael Lorenzen after that. So can you pull up Michael Lorenzen's trade value while I do this part?
yep.
Um, so Eduardo Rodriguez, I think he has a trade value of 5.7. Why is his trade value so low? Because like we were talking about, like he's not a free agent until 2027, although he can opt out after this year. So since he can opt out, he's essentially a rental, or he may not be a rental. But if he's not a rental, then his cost is $15.5 million a year, $15.4 million a year. That means to be at a good trade value, he needs to deliver at least 2 to 3 WAR to be somebody that we really want to do. Now, clearly he's going to do that this year. But let's talk about some of these numbers, right? 2.69 ERA versus a 3.15 FIP. Okay, that is a great year. That is arguably it is his best year ever at age 30. So you have to decide, is Eduardo Rodriguez the best um, is the best potential option, or is the Eduardo Rodriguez Detroit has gotten in 2023 the Eduardo Rodriguez he's going to have for the next few years, or Harry, you're going to have to tell me more. What is the tweet from Morosi about Michael Lorenzen? So, or you may, Clint, if you can look that up. So, here we go. I mean, the issue here is, Eduardo Rodriguez having a career year. Now you have to decide: do you really want to buy a pitcher at his max, or do you want to buy him at buy low, sell high, or buy high, sell low? that's that's kind of the issue with Eduardo Rodriguez. I mean, given his trade value, you would say, well, that's not it's a good option, but I'm a little worried about the pitcher here that I see with a 4.03 career ERA, right? And I just, like, you can say, well, that's in the line with Montgomery, and he may be even better than Montgomery, right? This guy may be better than Montgomery, but one of the things I know with Montgomery is that he is a rental, right?
Mhm.
I'm not exposed to him deciding that he wants to opt in, and I have to pay him $15 million a year for the next 4 years, which means that has ramifications for Abreu. I mean, with Altuve and Bregman
Well,
and Tucker and others. So
but one good thing is I know Lorenzen pitched today, 7 innings, 3 hits, no earned runs, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. John Morosi was tweeting about how the Astros and the Rays are the teams that are considering him at the deadline. He's thrown 21.2 scoreless innings. He's on a streak. His MLB trade value based on the website is 2.4, 2.9 on the high side. Um, So, I mean, you could make the argument the way that he's been pitching right now, maybe it's double that. So just make it a 6 or 8.
yeah, that is exactly what we're looking for.
Yep.
So the reason Michael Lorenzen did not hit my filters is, remember, I said I wanted a pitcher that had more than 100 innings.
Mm-hmm.
It was just short of that.
Yep.
and I was looking for pitchers that were below 4.2 in every single one of these categories. So he barely misses that. But
Yep.
after his start today,
He
you know,
might be.
he might be there, right? So this is why like literally things change up to the very end. But I was if that's truly his trade value, and he's a free agent again, he's a rental. That's a great option. That's a great option. And guys, that may be what I mean. You should feel happy
You can
hearing.
make the argument that they could make two moves and add a
Right.
Montgomery and a Lorenzen.
Right. And you should be happy that that is the side of the market that Dana Brown is really exploring. If
Yeah.
it's really talking about, because he's aware that he can't compete with the Dylan Ceases. He can't compete like Lucas Giolito. Somebody else is gonna pay the price for Lucas Giolito that he really doesn't want to pay, right? And so that's good. If we can get a guy that's got we have to pay a 5 to 8. That there's all kinds of ways to come up with 2 or 3 mid-level prospects that could be interesting to a Detroit Tigers team. Maybe we can even work in like, hey, you want Martin Maldonado in the deal too? Okay, never mind. All right, I see a Lucas Lynn question. Lucas Lynn.
Lucas Lynn or Lance Lynn?
Lance Lynn, sorry. I'm sorry.
He's a
Lance.
negative .4 trade value.
Negative .4 trade value. Why is that? What's he making? He must be making a lot of money.
He's making a lot of money. That's got to be it.
Yeah. Okay. So, so he's got a club option, so that's good. He's got an AAV in 19, so he's getting paid. Oh, here's why. He's got a 6.06 ERA and a 4.96 FIP. Okay, so you can say, well, can we? So this would be one. What would we, Clint? Tell the people what we would do with somebody like this, because we would not reject this out of hand. We would go and we would call it the Baseball Savant page, and Clint would go into we would go in and say we would ask the question of each other: Can we fix him?
Yeah.
How can we fix him?
Yep.
And we would look at the metrics of every single one of his pitches. We would look at the X wobas and the wobas of what his pitches are. We would ask ourselves, okay, where it gets a little complicated when you do that with a starting pitcher, you can't just get him down to 2 pitches, right?
No, it's a completely different approach whenever we look at a starting pitcher.
But this is what Clint. Clint has done this for several different folks out there. I mean, I should put the Clint fix. I should put an article that's like the Clint fixing Clint fixes out there.
The whole thing is when you back up and take a look at somebody like that, or when I looked at Genesis Cabrera and I looked at Amir Garrett, it's like, where are they?
Why are they failing?
Why are they failing, and why aren't we leaning into the strengths that show up in the stats that we have? Like Genesis Cabrera should not be throwing much of anything besides curveball and sliders to right-handed hitters. Those are his 2 most effective pitches against those hitters. But for some reason, he's throwing more fastballs to him than any of those other 2 pitches, and it makes no sense.
Right.
Now, obviously, the argument could be it's a lot of stress on the arm. It makes a difference. But, yeah, that's true. But also, he should only see 3-4 batters in an inning. He's a reliever. So it's kind of like, well, what's going on here? And, I mean, if you go and look at Baseball Savant in 2023 for Lance Lynn, and I know he's got a ton of pitches, but his WOBA is on every pitch is really bad. And that's just WOBA.
So that's the problem. So somebody asked me about another pitcher like that, and I went and looked at it like, well, see, this is a pitcher that's got a bunch of bad pitches, and there's none like last year when the Astros traded for Will Smith, guys. I was like, Will Smith? I said get a lefty reliever. What are we doing? Get a good lefty reliever. And then we went into the fix-it machine and said, okay, what are they doing? And it turned out that we said that they are going to focus him on throwing mainly sliders, and he's going to stop throwing his curveball, and that's essentially what they did.
Yep.
And I mean, you can see the articles on Will Smith, And like what we said, how we said how they were going to do it, and then turns out we wrote at the end of the season, did they fix them? And they did it a little differently than we said, but
Well, you know what's interesting, Larry, is when I'm looking at this, is like Lance Lynn has an expected WOBA on his slider of 153,
that's great.
but he throws it only 5% of the time. So that's just that's a curiosity. He throws his fastball 42% of the time, and he has a WOBA. Well, as I'll just go with expected WOBA instead of WOBA. Expected WOBA 346.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, guys, this is the if there's one thing that the Astros do, this like Clint, we should clip this part of the video and we should put it on every one of your fix it articles, right? How the Astros fix these pitchers, right?
Right.
Because
So, like,
this is what they've done to multiple relief pitchers, guys. That they stop them from pitching the bad pitches and have them pitch the good pitches more. It's
so
really like high level
yeah.
4-degree chess. It's not that hard, but they still keep doing it over and over and over again.
So, case in point, when you look at his splits against righties, slider is a 204 expected WOBA.
That's
The
good.
changeup is a 056 expected WOBA.
That's
And
good.
fastball is a 212 expected WOBA. If we switch that to lefties,
It must
the
be terrible.
lefties, the fastball is getting destroyed. I mean,
just
they are
stop-
mashing at a 487 expected
Stop
WOBA,
throwing-
562 WOBA.
stop
So stop
throwing-
throwing fastballs and go slider curveball against lefties, and then go fastball, slider, changeup to righties. Yeah, for pitch sequences, you might have to throw something else, but
Right.
those are the pitches. And I guess this is where we get into it, Larry. And now we're talking the science now, right? It's like, well, yeah, okay. So case in point, you would not throw one of your marginal pitches in a 2-2 count. You're trying to get the strikeout. You might throw it in an 0-2 count when they're a little bit less likely to be either swinging for the fences or something like that. I mean, granted, baseball's changed, but your pitch sequence and your pitch selection can change based on the count and how you mix in those pitches. And I think that's what the Astros do really well because, everybody, you say what you want about Javier, but he only throws 2 really good pitches.
Right.
But he knows how to throw them, and he knows the timing of it and its location and place and being able to work with it well. And so I don't think that there's an issue. I think the Astros can take any of these fringe guys and help them. I think they've proven that with what they've done with some of the guys that they have.
Yeah, so guys, in case you're like, what are they talking about? The baseball savant, if you go to the baseball savant for any picture, you focus on this portion of the data, and then what we're really looking at is this column right here, X WOBA, and what we do is we do right-handed. So this is Lance Lynn versus a righty, okay, and you see the expected WOBA and normal. I think the average expected WOBA this year is like 329. If it's something around that.
Yeah.
So if it's better than that, it's good. And even if you have like the cutter here at 319, that's
It's not
okay.
terrible. No.
That's fine, and that's a great change of pace pitch off the fastball, right? So
Mhm.
literally, if you can now, what's wild about Lynn is he's throwing all these pitches. Like he's got 1, 2, 3, 4,
7 pitches.
5, 6, 7, and of course the bottom 2 really don't count. So if you really look at these top 5 pitches, well, just stop. Like he should never throw a sinker again. Stop throwing the sinker. Like this is not rocket science, guys.
Yeah. If you want to throw a sinker, throw it in a situation where there cannot be damage done.
Right. Throw it way. It's way outside.
When
It can't
there's
be
no
in.
runners on and it's the first pitch of the at bat of an inning, throw a sinker on the outside corner to a righty. But if it's 1 and 2, you got runners on second and third with 2 outs or 1 out. Don't ever lean into your worst pitch.
Right.
Maybe that's the problem, and that would take us going and looking at film. But really, the truth is, like the numbers don't lie.
Well, right, and it's just a 2-year trend. The sinker was bad last year too.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, guys, like I know we sound like a bunch of data nerds right now. That's fine. I don't. You can call me whatever you want. But I mean, this is not rocket science, right? So literally, yeah, there's ways to fix Lance Lynn, and know what I would what I would hope the Astros would do if they go trade for Lance Lynn, that they've gone through this exercise, they've had their pitching coaches figure out like what would it look like if we just stopped having Lance Lynn throw a sinker versus righties? What kind of pitch sequences would we do? They would take this conversation we're having, and they would advance and build a whole strategy for how they would use Lance Lynn, and really convince themselves whether or not they thought that was going to be. And at least, I mean, if he has literally a 212 pitch, a 319 pitch, a 313 pitch, and a 204 pitch, that's a better than the average major league pitcher versus right-handed pitchers
Yep.
hitters. That's very good. Now the problem is versus the lefties, it looks a lot worse. And the two pitches that he's actually got good are down here are the ones he's never throwing. So you have to worry about the sample size.
Yeah.
Right. And so you could say that one of the challenges is like you could say we're just going to focus on these bottom four, and we're just going to do away the four seam fastball versus lefties.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you just eliminated the four seam fastball, it's probably a not a great pitcher versus lefties, but it's probably not as bad. He's probably getting lit up with the 40% he's throwing. They're just waiting on the fastball, and they're following the other things off. So, guys, Lance Lynn, Harry, it's not a bad. I mean, I don't. What was his trade value?
-0.4.
Yeah. So I mean, you get them to pay part of the salary. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, guys, this is way more constructive of a trade conversation than literally saying the Astros are going to get Dylan Cease and Luis Robert for scraps of their minor league system. This is way more intelligent. Thank you. All right, we had a question about Dallas Keuchel. All right, so like Dallas Keuchel's had a really rough year, and that I guess he's in the minors right now because he signed a minor league deal with Minnesota. You know, here's what I'll say about Dallas Keuchel. He's 34, right? Dallas. So, finesse pitchers generally have a more of a challenge when they get into their mid to late 30s. The control is not as controlled. They don't have the speed to blow by people anymore, and it's the transition like a Zach Greinke made is he went from fastball pitcher to off speed pitcher,
Mm-hmm.
but he had impeccable control and was able to get those pitches where he wanted to do.
Yeah, people don't remember the 99-mile-an-hour Zach Greinke that used to exist.
Right. And so that's more the natural progression. So, Mark, what are you saying about Friday opt-out? Friday opt-out for who?
I think that's related to Keuchel.
For Keuchel? So, at the end of the day, if Dallas Keuchel wants to sign a minor league deal and they put Dallas Keuchel into the fix-it machine and see if they can make something happen. Yeah, so Brandon, you're saying his AAA stats are fantastic. So, I mean, maybe that's what Minnesota's doing with him, right? They're essentially doing, so they're fantastic as far as ERA, but so I have to calibrate the average AAA ERA and FIP is 6. So a 4.34 is actually pretty fantastic in AAA right now. So it's interesting, but see, here's the problem with Dallas Keuchel. He's not going to strike many people out, right? So, and he can't really be walking 4.6 per 9. So it's not. I mean, here's the thing, guys. If the Astros were doing these things all year long, and this very well may be where they end up on August 2nd. Like August 2nd, like bring us all your. We come the island of the misfit toys in AAA, right? We're just trying anything that'll work. Just give us some guys that can throw some innings. Dallas Keuchel can give us innings.
We're gonna throw something at it and see if it
see
sticks.
if it sticks, right? That's I don't want to be negative, but that's where we could be. I mean, if we were the 2014 Astros, we'd be trying all these things, right? Um, so that's it. Okay, more questions, more great ideas. Because guys, I'll just tell you, those ideas are a hell of a lot better than most of the ideas that you see on Twitter. Yeah, Brandon, trust the pitching lab. I mean, the pitching lab. I mean, we gave you kind of the introduction to the pitching lab, right? That's what the Astros do typically in the pitching labs. Like, stop throwing the bad pitches. It's
Mhm.
really advanced, right? It's like, come on, Larry. It's not that. It's really not that easy. It's really not that simple, is it? Yeah, it kind of is.
It starts there, and
It
then
starts there.
it advances to, well, what, and then you dive even deeper. Like, well, is this hitter better against the slider or this
Right.
pitch? And then you start to really understand sequence on sequence, because, and that's what Larry and I have always said. There's a game within a game on the field. And you really have to think about that secondary game they're playing, from pitch count, innings count, pitch sequences, takes, the types of swings that they're making, things like that. All that type of stuff is what is really drives the success for these teams.
Right, I'm going to say this, and I mean, somebody's going to probably clip this portion of the video. This is what Martin Maldonado does really well, guys. This is the value of him being a scout on the field, coach on the
Well,
field.
he can do
But
it, but
I know, but here's the problem. Here's the problem. There's some pitchers, and I worry that Hunter Brown's in this category. I'm pretty convinced right now that Framber Valdez is in this category, and and I'm convinced that JV was in this category. That all this stuff sometimes gets in their heads, and it's too much information for them. It like, and you hear a couple of the younger pitchers to say, "I just throw whatever Martin's telling me to throw because I let Martin worry about all that stuff,"
Yep.
and because and I don't really want my pitchers just to be dependent on Martin Maldonado. I want them to tell them, like, no, I'm feeling really good about my curveball right now, Martin, and have Martin be a cheerleader. Like, all right, let's do it, even if Martin knows that that's a 400 ex-Woba pitch, right? I really want. I worry that sometimes that Martin knows all this stuff.
That's the ebb and flow of the game. Like, you
Right.
wake up one morning and it's like, I can't throw a curveball to save my life, but the changeup is amazing. And so, is the changeup really a 400 ex-Woba pitch, or is it a 300 or 250 ex-Woba pitch on that day because it's exceptional compared to whatever else I have to throw? And there's a feel versus real type thing, and that's the beauty of the sport is, and that's the other thing that these guys always have to understand is, like, these guys wake up feeling different every day, and so they are reacting to what their body and what they're able to do on that day, and they may not always have it, and we see that a lot.
Yeah. So, Mark, tell me what teams you're referring to. You're talking. I've forgotten. JP Sears is interesting to me. All right, well, let's look at JP Sears. Mark, tell me which teams you want to know about, because I already talked about the Cardinals. I guess they're not one of the bottom. JP Sears, one of the bottom three. All right, let's look at JP Sears. All right, so yeah, it's interesting. So, all right, so Oakland. Now, is Oakland gonna? If you're Oakland, are you gonna trade a JP Sears, Brandon? I mean, like, isn't this a guy that they want to build around? I mean, I know he's 27, so maybe the answer is he's too old to necessarily build around. But 3.99 ERA, he would not. So his advance, his FIP and his XFIP would have meant that he missed my filters because of that 4.91. I would have, like, no, I don't want that. But you know, you're right. I mean, 3.99. It's interesting. I don't know what his trade value is. If you can tell me what his trade value is, we can look at, or we can go look it up real quick. But like, I don't know that. Yeah, I mean that's true. For the right price, they'd probably sell anyone. What's his trade value? What's his trade value? Let's see. So Sears. Problem is he's going to have a lot of control. Come on, the old trade values website's a little slow sometimes. How old is he? He's 27 and 081 service time. So he's got a lot of service time left. Not a free agent until 29. Come on, trade values website. Now you guys know my pain here. All right. So yeah, okay. So JP Sears 22.4. So you're paying for all those controllable years and projections of him going forward. Brandon, I wouldn't pay for that. I I would rather believe in my development system as the Astros and say that I can get a Eric Getty and a couple others guys here to help this pitching staff next year and the year beyond than depend on a trade for a JP Sears to be, you know, I don't. So guys, I don't think the Astros are trading for a young pitcher that's going to be the next Hunter Brown. I just don't. I think they're going to be trading for a Jordan Montgomery that can give them 1 year, and maybe we can convince them to come back for another year at a $10 million, $6 million salary. That's I mean that's where they are. That's where they are in the progression cycle. So that's just my thought. Mark, who do you specifically want to know if I have an interest in? I can go to the roster resource page maybe and figure it out. I think JP is the lefty. Astros don't have. Well, yeah, that is a problem. The Astros don't have. He is a lefty. They don't have any. And oddly enough, they didn't really like trade for a lot of lefties either, right? Like, what are we doing? Um, Rockies, Nationals, Athletics. I mean, Uh, we talked about the Cardinals. They're not in the bottom three. Royals. We talk about Royals. I I mean, I started out in the Wild trade articles with some Royals, but I think one of their first basemen got hurt, and honestly, Abreu started hitting, so it made the need for Nick Prado less. And so, what are y'all thinking about Zach Greinke? I've actually thought about this. What about Zach Greinke? I mean, it's not been pretty this year for Zach Greinke,
No.
right? But Clint, can we fix it? Can we fix Zach Greinke? Is he doing something dumb as far as baseball savant says?
We can take a look.
I mean, these. See the challenge when you have a team like the Royals, just like Harry. I did not exactly say that, but I mean I did ask the question, right? Um, but the thing about the Royals and some of these other teams is you really have to like how good could they be? Yeah, so Jordan Lyles has been somebody that I've seen on Twitter. Let me
It's
click on him too.
it's okay, Larry. I mean, it's not great.
Yeah, so I worry with Zach that he's just done. Now, see with Jordan Lyles, I mean, you guys are like taking like you guys are going deep diving, and I in my articles I was like, no, they got to be proven that they're good, right?
Mm-hmm.
and you guys are going like, well, what about, can we fix this guy? Yeah, I'm sure there's like, I'm sure there's like 100 pitchers out there that we could fix. Do we want to put? Well, I guess it kind of goes back to, let me do this. Let me show it this way. With the Astros, if we add somebody and we bring them in, and we bring a major leaguer in, we've got to be taking somebody out. So who are we taking out? It's probably Seth Martin. Well, so Joel Connell's gone when Urquidy's back. Um, and we do the cycle that I talked about, right? So essentially, you're adding another pitcher to the yellow team, and it to me they have to be unequal to that quality. So I can, oh, that's the wrong group. Sorry. We'll get it from here. They have to be equal to the hybrid crew, right? They have to be equal in quality
Mm-hmm.
to JP France, Jose Urquidy, Brandon Bielak, Ronel Blanco, and Seth Martinez. Or they're, and the Astros maybe have a month to fix one of these guys, right? And and I don't know when they're going to do that. And you can say they're going to do that when they've got Hunter Brown down, right? Well, they've got a complicated. I mean, I'm all in favor of adding another arm that can help, but I I I just don't know, like, if it was last year and we're talking about this, then by all means, because we got a big enough lead, we're bulletproof, right? We we're all talking about like as if the Astros are going to be in the postseason, right? We we got to get to the postseason. We don't even know that they're going to get into the postseason. So guys, we're almost at the 2 hour mark. I think it's been a great conversation. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Um, so we'll clip these videos up a little bit and put them together. But hopefully, you guys have had some real trade talk, real trade deadline talk here. And Clint, thanks for joining in.
Revelations.
Yeah, thank you for joining. And
Thanks for having me. I'm glad it worked out. It's always fun to talk about it.
all right, guys. All right, guys. So the last pitch. If you haven't liked the video yet, please like the video. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed to the website, please subscribe to the website. And if you really want to make me a happy man, go to the Patreon site, and sign up for the Patreon. That will really help me pay the cost of the website and pay to actually even do some more like advertising and stuff like that to get people to come to the website. And that way we can counteract the BS that gets on the internet and really have people come to where the smart people go for their Astros information. LarryGM.com. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.